When I finally got introduced to Nurith Berstein, she admitted to me that she was been thinking long and hard about our business model. And she had a whole bunch of suggestions of ways that this thing could really, really take off. And it wasn't your average suggestions. It wasn't like, oh, do this and this for customers. It was like other lines of business and these types of things and different problems that we can solve based on what we've proven to solve. So, what's obvious to me is that she thinks at another level. And then what I realized is that Nurith has built a turnkey rental property investing company, not just a property management company. And that business model to me has a lot of value that I think more property managers should start to borrow from, should start to evolve into in order to build their own portfolios, in order to be able to create more wealth and get better clients and stuff like that. So I just had to have her on. On top of that, Nurith is super tied into kind of like researching and figuring out for herself the future of where AI is going. Just a really, really sharp person. So I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with Nurith Berstein. Welcome to the Property Management Framebreakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. I love that, you and I are both from South America, and I think because of that, there's some things that we don't take for granted, right? Like the idea that you can buy something with borrowed money is so like, and have access to this like leverage and this like vertical upward mobility from anywhere that you stand, for me, is the spine of the American dream, right? Like the upward mobility that happens. And I think real estate is really the true equalizer of just like anybody can really go do this thing.
But pair that with the fact that there aren't pensions anymore.
Yes.
And so, when you think about, well, what are you building? What is the asset class that you're, and what is the risk that you're taking on with whatever it is that you're investing in? You have to look at real estate.
Say more about that, Nurith. Explain that whole piece. I evangelize that a lot in another podcast called The Not Your Average Investor. I haven't really talked about it here. Let's jam on that.
So let me tell you where I come from personally. What is my personal story here? So we are from Latin America, yes. And so a very close family member at some point in a Latin American country lost everything because of, there's a long story behind it. And this is somebody who had been very successful as an executive in a company and so forth. And all of a sudden finds themselves from, having cars and so on and so forth to losing absolutely everything at 60 years old. The trauma, I cannot even explain what the trauma is. This person started again elsewhere in a country where you could, in fact, count on the institutions and the legal system to support purchasing of real estate, and it was yours. And he made it, starting at 60. My lesson is not so much that, start at 60 and you will make it. No. My lesson is, don't get into that issue at the beginning where you lose everything. So the risk to me of having all your eggs in one basket is exactly that. You lose everything. The lesson after he has made it is that he can retire. And at 60, you betcha there's no pension to be had, right? Yeah. So this is somebody who now has 4 properties, fully rented, right? Yeah. They're not big, and he has a pension. It just makes sense, right? There's this saying that, you make your money when you buy. And in real estate, you can do that. In real estate, you can actually create quite a bit, and you can create assets. A lot of people like that, feeling like something you can hold on to. You can do that.
So 2 things. One where I'm like, I totally agree with you, and one where I'm going to take a slightly different take, right? Yes, pensions have kind of gone away. They got replaced by, I didn't realize this, right? Because I graduated college in 2003. I didn't realize that the 401k was such a new thing back then, right? Like the 401k became this like idea of we're gonna let you control your retirement, right? Like we're gonna give you options for retirement, but it's not really giving you options. It's like, here's one option, Like
Right.
here's the stock market, right? Like that's
Right.
all you can do. And that's the only thing that they facilitate. And what I've realized in my journey of understanding this asset class and investing in this asset class and evangelizing this asset class is that old ING commercial. I don't know if you were in the US back then. ING had a commercial. It was like, what's your number? Right. And people are walking around with this like $3.4 million carrying them around. That became glamorized. Like if you can plan to get to your number and you get there, then you can retire comfortably. But when you look at the statistics in American retirement, they're dismal, right? Like they're like the average like boomer has something like the median boomer has something like $300,000 to retire on or something like it's like an insane stat. So it
Yeah.
begs the question to have we created the right, have we given people the right options to invest in? Have we created the right like behavior? And more importantly, what I've realized is that when you take this approach of getting to a number and pretending like that number when you go to retire, now you've made it. It's like save, save,
Mhm.
save, 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 so you can go spend, 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 spend. But then now what's happening is we're living longer. Is that number really going to last you that long? And oh, by the way, we're also in this world that's way more interconnected. There's way more black swan events, and there's way more like likelihood of something weird happening where there's this like giant swing. And if that hits you at the wrong time, now you're talking about years that like you're struggling. Whereas real estate, specifically single family rental properties, which is all I can say I know, the longer that you own it, the more, like in that other way, it's like you become most vulnerable at your most vulnerable, right? Like at that time where like if something happens, you can't take risks with it.
You bring an excellent point. You say, well,
Yeah.
they gave us the 401s and they
Yeah.
didn't give us a lot more. Well, they gave
Hmm.
us other things, right? They gave us IRAs, they gave us Roth IRAs. But
Hmm.
here's the thing they did not give us. If
Yeah.
you go to, I would say 95% of those tools where you say, oh, this is what I have, how much can I spend? Where is the line that says, oh, this is the rental you're getting? This is the real estate part. Nothing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's not in the culture out there saying
Hmm.
you should be able to fill out these other lines in the same way that you're saying, well, I have X amount in my 401 and this is the social security I'm planning on. Oh, and I have these two properties here.
Hmm.
The other thing that you talk about that is so important is the timing of things.
Hmm.
I have this beautiful little model that says, well, at some point, I may want to, I don't think it'll ever happen, but let's assume at some point it does, right? And so I have this model that says, okay, from the time I'm this age to this age, I am drawing from whatever portfolio, whatever retirement bucket, I put it in buckets, makes sense for me. There comes a point in my retirement journey where I'm like, wait a second, I have had to do forced savings because of the real estate, right? Somebody else has been paying my mortgage. All of a sudden, I have this asset. And at
Hmm.
some point, it may no longer make sense when I'm 80 years old to get that monthly check, but it may make sense for me to sell it. And I have this big bucket of beauty that
Hmm.
is going to pay for whatever medical, whatever it is that I want to do. And it has not been savings that I have done. It's savings that other people have done for me.
Yeah.
It may be savings that I have done if I own my own home, right? But it's forced
Sure.
savings. And we're
It's
just
forced.
not used to savings in this country. So
Yeah.
forced savings to me it should be something that is encouraged
Yeah, forced
for people.
savings through the debt pay down, through the home price appreciation, and then whatever the cash flow. I would even add to the idea that what makes this truly unique is that if you need that money at that point, you don't necessarily need to sell it and
Right.
take a tax hit. You just have
That's
more options, right? You can
right.
refinance, you can take that money out, you can 1031 it, right? Like you can do a reverse mortgage, right? Like you just have so many more options that don't make you take a big hit when if you're struggling and for that reason you have to sell it, you don't also have to pay a big penalty. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So all this thing about real estate is very powerful, especially in a country such as this one, where you have the tax incentive to do it, and you
yeah,
have the solid institutions where what you own is yours. Come on.
100% agree. I forgot what the other part was that I was going to disagree with you on now that we agreed so harmoniously. Tell me,
Great.
yeah, tell me more about then. So this was if I'm listening to this podcast right now, I'm our friend we're in her ear right now. I'm thinking, wow, this is a really, really great way to talk about real estate and talk to my client investors and kind of like evangelize this asset category. Tell me about your experience in the property management industry.
Well, so I tell you that we've started, we have clients from all walks of life. We have clients who are experienced, and then we have the clients who find themselves not wanting to sell their asset. They're moving somewhere else. They want to preserve what they have bought, and they move. And you know what I have found, which is amazing, that after, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years, they buy another property. Because all of a sudden it's like, I did not know that I could have this and not worry about it. And that is where this thing about my true belief and why I do this, that real estate is for everyone. I want to hopefully help protect every single person that I come across from the disaster that I talked about at the beginning. That's what I want.
And now I know where I was going to veer off from what you said. You said this is an asset where you make money in the buy. I believe that to be 100% true in a lot of forms of real estate. I think in this asset class, you make the money in the hold, right? So it's like you buy right, but it's like how long you're in the game helps it, which to me is the reason that it validates this idea of working with a property manager that, like you're saying, can take this like pain off the table to make the experience happen. Because what I find is most people churn out of this asset class, not because of NOI, not because of the ROI, like not because of the lack of cash flow, it's because of the experience.
Oh, but let's talk about that for a little bit.
Let's talk about that.
Yes, this is so important. This asset class, if you buy the right property, and I'm not talking about you make your money when you buy. If you buy the right property because you can rent it, you can just hold it even if the market goes down. That's so important. One of the things that we do with our clients, and I tell them, so we buy properties for them. Once in a while, we don't. They have their own realtors, whatever it is. And I tell them, please call me. I want to know what property you're buying, because not all properties are good rentals, right? So I have one, for example, if you want to buy a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, or you spend $5,000 more because it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, please buy the one with the extra bathroom. Oh, but I want the one with the garage. Actually, people will park on the street to save money on a rental. The second bathroom is more important. So I always tell them, so if you buy the right property that is a good rental, it will survive a downturn, right? So time, which is what you're talking about, hold it over time. You have that protection. If you hold it over time, you are going to get your money back, and it's still going to pay for itself 100%. But if you are buying, essentially saying, well, I hope it will appreciate, the moment you say, I hope it will appreciate, do your research, honestly, and find the property that makes sense. And it's not that you're always going to make money at the beginning, but it has to be a strong asset, a strong rental property.
I haven't talked to the bulk of my experience in this world comes from JWB and their turnkey rental property operation, right? Like now I'm remembering the reason why I really wanted to talk to you is because I haven't talked to a lot of folks in this space that are coming at it from this like turnkey model. And that's what it sounds like you have. It sounds like you're helping people buy. You are the property management company. Can you kind of tell me, did you buy a property management company and then start helping people buy? Did you start helping people buy and then decide to grow a property management company? Can you tell me a little bit about like the genesis of your business and kind of like at what scale you're at right now?
I had my own properties, and I took this as an opportunity to do something different. So I have my properties. I'm like, why don't I set up, and this is so interesting, right? Why don't I set up this company to manage my own properties? And I'd like to have a few people, maybe 20 properties. Nice. I like it. I like interacting with tenants. I like interacting with people. That's why you do property management. You establish relationships. It's not transactional, right? It's the whole life span of the thing. And then the thing grew. Why did it grow? Because people want to invest in this asset class, because people want to have the real estate and not get, I always say, do you want that 3 a.m. call that a house is flooding or whatever? You don't. And they do happen. And, it's great. It's not great. It just means that we have work to do, and that's fantastic.
An opportunity to add value, right?
Yes. And so I came into this space, I didn't grow up in property management, but as you know, we're not from here, third world country. It's almost in our countries, for in some countries, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
Holding real estate is not unusual, right? Because there are no pensions and so on and so forth. And so you grow up with this, you've seen it before. I did not expect the company to grow the way that it has, but boy, am I happy that it has grown the way that it has.
What do you think has been the key to that growth?
We work for, there's two things. It's very clear to me that we work for our clients, and what that means is that we don't draw a line necessarily of, well, this is in my job description, but this other thing is not. No, 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 no. If something is needed on compliance, we're going to do it. If there's an issue with insurance, we're going to take care of it. Whatever it is, we're actually very much doing what is needed. But the second part, and I always tell people this, it is that we treat the relationship between the owner, the tenant, and ourselves, it's a partnership. And so we set expectations for everyone. For the owner, we tell them, you are a housing provider. That comes with certain responsibilities. For the tenant, you're occupying that housing. That comes with certain responsibilities. And we're here to make sure that the whole thing works and it works well. And there is such an interesting correlation that I have found between good landlords and good tenants. Or I'm not sure if the issue is bad landlords, bad tenants. I'm not sure.
I gotcha. Well, so this brings me back to our original conversation when we were, we'll get back to AI and all this other stuff, but we're just kind of like talking to Vendoroo, and the way that you introduced yourself was, I used to basically allocate resources to like a giant spend. So I'm really good at allocating resources, right? Or like grants, or I remember you telling me that. And when I hear you say you do what's needed like you do what's needed for the client, there's another side of that story, right? There's another side of like the story of, if you do everything people need you to do, there's a certain boundary where it just becomes like unsustainable for you to operate your business in a profitable manner. So I see you as somebody that understands how to be like a great resource allocator, and you found a way to, what I'm hearing is, treat everybody like on an individual basis and make sure that you can paint outside the lines when time is needed. Am I getting that right?
You're getting that right, but in a way, me as a resource, there's a limit to that resource. There is a limit to every resource. That's where we can get into the AI and so on and so forth. But the not having a limit, it doesn't mean that everyone is going to cross it, right? At all. And so we have not hit that wall, but let's assume that at some point we do, right? So let's assume that at some point there is a big natural disaster, God forbid. That means that what, God knows what happens. And at that point, you of course have to think about, well, what is the resource allocation that I'm doing here? Does it make sense? Or am I turning off the lights in the office? Our clients are never going to want us to go away, but they will pay for the extra services if need be. And so, those are the kinds of relationships that you're building where it is a partnership. And we're very upfront and honest and the whole bit. I can tell you a couple of times, more than a couple of times, where if you were to divide the amount of time we've dedicated to any one property, and in any given time, it's less than minimum wage, right? If you divide the hours by what we're getting.
Yeah.
But these are relationships that are 10 years long. These are relationships that can be longer. We have clients that have given us clients, and those other clients that have bought or sold properties from us, and those clients have given us other clients. We have tenants that have given us clients, which is amazing. It is.
Yeah.
And so you can never look at the one client saying, well, I'm spending too much time for it. No. You have to plant those seeds. You got to water them and take advantage of all that's going to come from each one.
You're now basically validating what I think is probably like, I think the smartest thing. I say a lot of things. Like, I think the smartest piece that I wrote was this piece around, everybody's so focused on, I mean, it's obvious that property managers don't feel seen. They don't feel like, they do so many things and they're bullet takers. And when something is wrong, they get thrown under the bus. And kind of like the conversation in the industry of the events that I went to a lot, like last year, was, hey, focus on NOI. If you can prove the NOI, then everybody's going to love you, right? Like, they're going to see your value. And I just don't think that that's true. I think the reason why people leave their property manager and either switch property managers or just get out of real estate and go like put it into the market or Bitcoin or whatever is a completely other metric that I call the kitchen table argument, right? Like the only reason why I've ever switched property managers is my wife and I spent 4 months, actually 4 months on the short end, probably about like 2 years of like ping here, ping there. Do these people really like, are they paying attention to me when I need it? And when something's going wrong, are they just treating me like as like, oh, well, our policy says to do this, so don't worry about this. Like, what do you mean don't worry about it? Like I have like, like a large amount of my net worth in this thing. It's that ability to show up when we need you most that drives that long-term value for me. And it sounds like that's kind of like that's what you're describing.
You just said the key word is value. So here in my office and my staff, my people, every morning, what is the value added? What is the value added? What is it? Please, everybody understand, what does your client want from you? They don't want processing. They want to be able to call someone and say, well, I'll give you an example. I went to a property yesterday because there's this noise that is coming from a vent. And the tenants keep saying, and we've had 2 companies come out and say, it's the filter, it's where the thing is placed, you have to put it outside the bedroom, whatever it is. So I'm like, I have to go check this out. I take filters out, I open the thing, hear the noise, etc. I'm like, okay, if you place the vent somewhere else, you're not going to hear it in the bedroom, but the noise is still there. This is the furnace. The furnace is 23 years old. So I go to her, I was like, I did all this testing. This is silly, right? What is the value in that? It's actually telling the owner, don't look at what they're saying. You have to look at what is happening here. And the fact that you have a great property, you're going to need this change. But value goes beyond that. But it does mean putting yourself in your client's shoes and seeing what's important to them. You just have to do that.
Yes, client empathy, right? Like seeing the perspective of like problem first, not like how do I end this conversation as opposed to how do I solve a problem, and being clear on what the problem is, right?
And what you said, your property, it was a huge part of your, assets. The property manager should understand that.
So where do you draw the line, right? Like, where do you draw the line on like, let's say I'm somebody that has 2 properties, so they're both my baby. I've lived, like I lived in it, so my kids grew up in it, and then I got rid of it, but I still have this like emotional attachment, or like whatever, right? Like, where do you draw the line on going above and beyond to solve these issues versus the idea that you have people that can only do so much on a certain amount of day? Like, what is your kind of like what's the line there?
The line is that we have to be allowed to manage.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing that you just said, well, there's this owner and so I have one. Oh, I want to go to the inspections. No,
Mm-hmm.
because then my inspector can't do his job because you are sort of, if you want to, not every client is the right client for us.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are using you as a scheduler, if you're using you to tap into your large network of vendors and so on and so forth, it may not be the right relationship. The right relationship is one where you can do your job and allocate resources and as a company grow, because there's only 8 hours a day for the 9 to 5 people, and of course there's only 24/7, right? Every day has 24 hours, not 48. They have to allow you to grow, and only then can they grow. Any micromanagement kind of a thing is just not going to work well. Yeah.
When I pair what you just said there with the idea that you set proper expectations, I assume that in order to find that mix, there's some kind of like combination of disqualifying sales process. Like there's things that you're looking for in the sales process to not take someone on. There's a onboarding process where you're setting expectations the right way. And then there's kind of like like a rubric of like, all right, we took this person on. How do we figure out how do we offboard him? Can you kind of like talk me through those 3 things?
So I interview owners, and the interview in the same way that they interview me. Sure. They want to know about me. I want to know about them. And the kinds of questions I'm asking have to do with, how do you view tenants? What will you do in this circumstance or the other? Are we a good fit for you? In the same way that when we qualify tenants, we qualify them on very, credit, whatever it is, but we also have references and so forth. If we have a relationship that at some point with a client that turns south, let's put it that way, that it's just whatever it is that they're wanting is not something that we feel comfortable or ready to offer, it's a very simple conversation, to be honest with you. And it has to do with, you deserve somebody who can really do what you want them to do, and we're not a good fit. As simple as that.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me.
You
100%.
deserve better.
And I will tell you what there's a line, for example, that is a very clear-cut line for me for when I can tell an owner, you need to move on. And that's what I always tell people is liability, right? Liability. When you have an owner that is putting your company, there's a liability and they're not willing to budge, they need to move on. That line, it's just not there for me. And there are
what? No, tell me.
There are owners like that for sure.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask you kind of like, what's the toughest kind of like decision you've had to make in that space? Like, like that sounds easy to say, yeah, it's an easy conversation or whatever, but I'm sure there's been moments where it hasn't been so easy. Like, do you have like an example of that?
So, over time you learn. I do not believe those decisions are difficult, to be honest with you. I think that by the time you get to them, they're easy to make. And what I have learned over time is to recognize red flags and try to address them. And though that can, in fact, be difficult because that's where you haven't reached that point where you have to tell someone you need to move on. We're not a good fit. And those red flags have to do with what owners are unwilling to do for a property. But if it was their own home where they live, it would be unacceptable.
All right, Nurith, let's talk AI. You came at me.
Yes.
We got originally because you had some like real ideas of like where AI is going and how you want to use it. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so you touched on it a little bit already. You're talking about time, people's time, right? And I would say 90% of what we talked about is administrative. 90% is administrative. The one thing we talked about that is not is value, right? Recognizing the value you offer to your clients. So the more you talk about property management, you see that if you want to have a company that is attracting people, those boundaries, people expect a lot from you. How do you deliver? How in the world do you deliver? And I'll give you another one. It's not just how do you deliver, but how do you deliver consistently? So AI does two things. One, it gives you that administrative backup. So for example, for my staff, because, this is all new and people want to be able to, I want my staff to use it and use it well. We gave it a name. Our AI, it's Vinny. Tell Vinny to do it. What kind of oversight are you going to have, right?
Yeah.
You need to have oversight. But then you have to take what Vinny's doing. You have to take that. And now it gives you the time to add that human value, which is explaining to the owner, this is what's happening. So that's the value part. The other one is consistency. The troubleshooting will happen every single time, or the phone will be answered every single time, or the question will be noted and the backup will be there every single time. That is beauty. That is just powerful, right? That's what AI does. And that's why, so you can grow for two reasons. One, because you have the time, but the other is because you have the trust that whatever processes you have will be done consistently. That's just the thing of beauty.
This is you said the two kind of like things that I think are like the from to here, right? We've been in a world where you called it administrative tasks, right? Like the value of the property manager has been all the tasks that she can take off of the plate. And if we move into this world where AI can now show up consistently, have this like outstanding capacity and this high floor for decision making, now this idea of like the tasks that we have been attaching our value to for so long becomes essentially a commodity, right? Like it's no longer special. So where does the value come from? Like how do you see the oh, sorry, let me just finish that thought. We're going, and then you said the deal is trust, right? We're moving from a value based kind of like I prove my value through tasks to I prove my value through trust is another thing that I've been writing about a lot. Is that how,
Well,
where does the trust come from now if the value of tasks is gone?
so there is a part of the repetitive task and so on and so forth, and
Mhm.
consistently, etc. It's being
Yeah.
taken care of. And so everybody can do that.
Yeah.
What's the value that you bring to the table? So
Hmm.
I say it here too. One is to understand your client and understand that whatever it is that's being said, you have to explain it to them in a way that makes sense to them, that it's applicable to them, not to every, no cookie cutter, to them, right?
Hmm.
The second one, boots on the ground. Boots on the ground. What I told you about, I went to see an HVAC.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. So the boots on the ground part, it gives you the time to say, it gives you the time to step back. AI
Hmm.
gives you that freedom. There's things that are happening behind the scenes and they continue to churn and whatever it is, and you can go in and you can oversee and you can teach. Remember, you have to teach AI. This is not automatic. So you have to know what it is that brings value to your clients that AI can do so that you can bring even more value to them. It just expands that and the time that it gives you, you have to use it meaningfully. And
Yeah.
meaningfully also has to do with those wonderful, wonderful free weekends and evenings.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it, right? Like I echo so much. So many people when there's a part of me as like the person that I want to say I want to show up as the person that most cares about giving advice to folks about where this is going. And I feel like I would be doing people a disservice if I was telling them what they want to hear. And what people want to hear is that AI is not going to take your job. Someone using AI is going to take your job. And I just don't I just think it's going to redefine your job. And it is going to take a whole bunch of like jobs as they look right now. And it's going to move these jobs from these like task things that people don't like doing to these ideas of just like, man, I'm showing up and I'm like really like, building relationships so I can understand their love language and communicate with them one on one and have a really personal relationship. Plus, they're going to see me as like, I'm their person, right? Like that thing is rattling in the attic. I'm there for you, buddy, right? But like what I consistently hear is this idea of when I try to tell that message, people are like, that's stupid. AI is never going to do this. This is a people business. But we're saying the same thing. We're saying that like it's doing the most people-ish thing is where the value is going to come from. It is a people business, and the value is going to come from like how much of like being someone's actual person is going to be, not being someone's like task rabbit or whatever, or whatever you want to call it.
So, there are other types of businesses that have implemented AI in a way that we should be looking at. Insurance companies. I call my insurance agent. Believe you me, I am not calling them because I have to pay a bill. I am calling them because I'm saying, this happened.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, is it worth me opening a
Yeah.
claim? Like,
Yeah.
that is the value of that person. And
Mhm.
I hope that person has the time to answer my question because AI is taking care of all the other things. Because
Yes.
otherwise, he's not going to have time to answer my question.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I
And
want.
it's the freedom, it's the time to spend explaining it to me, right? Like the insurance company has already used AI to price the risk of blah, 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 blah. The agent is the person that helps me think through what that means to me and
Yeah.
explain it to me and take time. And the other thing what you said, where you're like this lovely idea of weekends, is not just
Yeah.
like during the workday you have time to explain it, but you also have time to like recharge, right? Like you have time to disconnect and be fully present when you have to explain it, not like, yeah, no, I'm gonna talk to you right now, but I gotta go in like 5 minutes because I have like 10 other things I have to get to, or else I'm never gonna get home to my kids, right?
Right. Right. And so AI, it's fine that it gives us some of our life back. I'm
Yeah,
all for it. I'm all for it.
me too. That's what we're trying to do out here. You also have ideas of where this thing's gonna go, right? So I'm taking it as, like full disclosure. you're a client, right? Like this is how you got onto my radar. Sounds like we're doing something right because, you know, like you're having this experience. I'm sure there's things we can do better, but you're also kind of like saying like there's bigger picture things where AI is going to like move into that, you know, that maybe people aren't seeing yet. You want to spend some time talking about that?
So I can tell you, we've had AI in our business very little time, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, why are we stopping here? And so one of the areas in property management, right, is this sense of it's a labor intensive sort of an industry, and moving away from the labor intensive has to happen if you want property management, if you want to support this idea that real estate is for everyone. And it's because you have to lower costs, the management costs, so people see the advantage even more of having this asset. But also, if it allows you to navigate the many, it's one of the issues in the US, the many different regulations across the many different counties and cities and states.
Yeah.
And I do see a huge advantage there. Why? I think my company's amazing. Our reviews are great.
I have no doubt.
We do very good work. And I actually have clients that are purchasing properties in other states because the return is fantastic. And they come to me and they say, can you? I'm like, well, I can't because I need this 13 licenses in order to manage your one property. I think that at some point, AI and Vendoroo can actually look into doing the management at a level that is above the licensing part, where you had partnerships at the city and county level on where the licenses are. That's what it is.
Interesting. Partnerships at the city and council level. Talk me more through it. Is that something that you want to share openly? Like I love pontificating on this type of stuff. Is that too out there? Yeah.
No. So, there is a fine line, right, between having a tool that people have to download because they're going to manage their own properties, no matter where they are. And as such, you don't need a license or anything like that, versus having a company that says, I will manage, which means I'm going to oversee X, Y, and Z. And that has to do with once a tenant is there, what is happening? How are you making sure that they're, inspect, whatever it is, right? These are the things I'm going to do. The licensing part comes in when you have to put together a contract between an owner and a tenant, right? And so you need to be a real estate, you have to have that license, or you have to be a broker, that sort of thing. But if you can, but those brokers and real estate agents don't want to do the management. Yeah. That's where the partnership comes in, where you're saying, I'm going to manage your property in Alaska because I have a partnership and that's my boots on the ground is right there. Now, for that to happen, AI has to take care of in the compliance part of property management is the one area that I think is lacking still. Yeah. And part of the problem, of course, is because you have the other side. So let's assume you need a rental license, whatever it is, AI can help you fill out a form, but it cannot send it to a city that's not using the right, how does the city? That is a big one in my view.
If you understand that change is coming and AI is this giant industrial revolution, you're going to want to work with a company that is AI by DNA. And that, my friend, is Vendoroo. We are a native agentic AI solution built from the ground up with this assumption that the AI future is here. And what Vendoroo does, it is able to handle 80 to 85% of all maintenance work orders from beginning to end, while elevating that extra 15 to 20% so that you can actually take care of it. And most importantly, just getting you out of the grind and the forever firefight of maintenance so you can do other things. Like one of our clients hired Vendoroo.ai, and within 6 months, the amount of time that saved her from maintenance, she dedicated herself to business development. She started adding 10 doors a month over the last 6 months. It's been 60 new doors. It's been a huge change, huge growth for her business, way more profitable. So if you want to do that, you want to get yourself out of the mundane, get your team out of the mundane, let them focus on stuff that really, really matters. Go to vendoroo.ai, book a demo with us, and we would love to help you build an agentic AI property management business. Vendoroo.ai, book a demo. Enjoy the rest of the show. I hear that. That's the best explanation I've heard, because I hear it over and over again. This idea of like compliance is the biggest hurdle and whatnot. And I was like, I thought maintenance was the biggest hurdle, and we are, like we're there, right? Like
You
AI,
solved it. You have
yeah.
solved it.
Well, thank you for saying that, right? Like if you feel that we've done that for you, then I'm gonna assume we're there, at least for one person, right? And I think of people hanging on like, no, but compliance being the biggest thing. I'm like, man, you sound like a cab driver saying that like my medallion is the reason why I'm not gonna go out of business here. And it feels like the compliance piece would be the easiest thing.
Try to renew a medallion in New
Try
York.
to renew a medallion. Yeah.
Try. See how far
Yeah.
you get. You
So
can
then
do
it's the
all bureaucratic.
receiving piece. It's the city not being up to date with like a technological innovation.
Right. And it's all
Yeah.
over the place, right? So
Yeah.
I think that there is a huge opportunity, at least to get the 75% done. What is the 75%? It is,
Yeah.
these are the things that have to be filled out. This is when they're due. Let's fill them out. And the
Yeah.
signatures, whatever it is. And here you go. You transmit them to the other side. It's the transmittal, the receiving side is
Mhm.
not receive. It's just, each line may be different.
Yeah.
And so to me, there is actually an opportunity. I mean, this should be like a test case for you guys. Pick a city, go work with the
Yeah.
city. Let's see if you
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Bet. We're gonna do it. All right. So tell me, so you seem pretty gung ho about this thing. Like I'm not. I've never on the podcast discussed kind of like the experience with the product, but it seems like you've come on. You totally get it. How are like you using it? Where our idea is going in this latest iteration is this idea of like mass customization is now very real. And it sounds like you're somebody that's like very into that idea. Like you're already thinking along the lines of like, I can show up for people when they really, really need it. What we're saying is kind of like, we had recently a client that was talking to the AI, was looking at what they were doing. They're like, oh, you know what? In this one unit, I have an elderly resident that's been there for like 10 years. And I don't want to troubleshoot anything with that elderly resident. The moment they need anything, I just want to send them a vendor. And that was
Right.
like eyes wide open, like you speak it into existence. Now, every single time that they reach out, they have that level of customization. How is your team using this, and kind of like what are you seeing? Like what are you guys doing with it?
So what we are doing, okay, first of all, it's been very exciting for me. It's been very
Mhm.
exciting for other people, but it hasn't been easy for people to fully understand how to take advantage of it. So that part, it
Mhm.
takes a little bit of hand holding, that
Yeah.
it's an investment very worth making. You
Mhm.
have to understand
Hand
that you
holding, like you hand holding the AI's hand, us hand holding your hand.
no, hand holding of my staff for them to
Got
use it in the way that it should be used,
it.
right? Change
Mhm.
is never easy, but it's an
Mhm.
investment absolutely worth making. And it doesn't take long at all, right? For people to see it as Vinny and Vinny's helping you kind of thing, it's great.
Yeah.
And then to understand that it learns in
Yeah.
a way that you can customize. And so you can say, and the beauty of it, I'm telling you, it's building a history, right? So at some point, it's going to say,
Yeah.
well, 3 years ago, that same valve failed.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, right? This is the vendor, whatever it is so powerful. And so the customization is very important. But I'll go back to the thing that I have brought before, the consistency.
Yeah.
And so, how many emails do you get a day?
Too
How
many.
many?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you answer them,
Yeah.
right? You want to make sure that you answer them well and
Mhm.
consistently in a given period, whatever it is. Work
Yeah.
order comes in. I know someone, Vinny, is talking to that tenant.
Yeah.
And the tenant feels heard. And the tenant can say, no, I want to talk to that. And Vinny will know, okay, fine, Nurith, you go take it. Whatever it is, right? It's fantastic. It's phenomenal.
Have you experienced that whole thing? Right. So like that is, one of the things that we're talking about is this like 24/7 5-star service when something is able to like take a phone call, while writing an email to somebody, while troubleshooting three different people's kind of things, right? Like the capacity of doing this, like we've had experiences where like we see it talking to somebody who's at work. It's like, yeah, my dryer vent is messed up, but I won't be home till 10 o'clock. And then the AI answer says, oh, that's fine. I'll be here at 10. Let's talk. They're like, oh my God, you'll be here. And then they do it and they troubleshoot it. And it's amazing, right? Like that capacity is something else. We've also heard that there's like a weird, eerie, oh my God, the phone's no longer ringing. What's happening in my company? Like, has that happened on the other side of it?
No, so, well, no, because we have, and this is one area. Oh my God, can you guys please do this part? Can you please
Yeah,
schedule showings? So
that's
it
coming.
is,
That'll come. That'll come. That'll come.
it
Yeah.
is June. I cannot tell you
Yeah.
what our fees are to make sure that people are qualified. Do you really want to
Yeah.
see? Makes sense. This and
Yeah.
that and the other. But we are going to go down the chatbot one, right?
Mhm.
And that again is going to mean that the phone is consistently answered in
Yeah.
a way, and answers are also consistent and transferred also. There's some beauty in that again.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Anything else, Nuni? Like anything else that we haven't talked about that you think is relevant to discussion that we were going to have here, or kind of
I
like
should
other
ask
things
you
that
a
you have?
question. Can I?
By all means.
Where do you think this is going? In the property management space.
Yeah.
You see it.
I think that, the reason why I called this thing the Frame Breakers podcast, it's because when there are these big changes in context, like somebody and somebody's gonna break the frame around like what the old metrics and whatever were possible, right? So if I see this moving the same way that other industries where disruptive innovation has come in, I think at the top, like there is all of a sudden like this idea that there hasn't been a national property management company will become possible, right? And that means that there's probably going to be like one that owns 50 to 70% of the market, two that are fighting for the other like 50 to like 20%, 25% of it. So there's going to be a Coke, there's going to be a Pepsi, and maybe there's an RC Cola, right? Or Walmart, Amazon, and Target, right? And then that's at the top. There's going to be like this like consolidation, but then market by market, I think there's going to be like a decentralization of it, right? Like I think there's going to be much more like ground up disruption closer to the idea of like a Airbnb ecosystem. Like I think people like me that have five doors are going to be like, "Oh, I can now manage my five doors with way less pain and not necessarily pay my property manager $9,000 a year for all this type of stuff." And that will happen. And then there's going to be like, and the people that are going to win there are going to be people that have like extreme differentiation around the things that you're talking about. Like they're going to be the local expert that can spend the time answering the questions and doing the thing, or there's going to be someone that like super differentiates around like, I'm the property manager for people that love dogs, and we have the most dog friendly policies, and we also have a grooming service, and we also have like mobile dog parks. And they're like,
Right.
I just think there's going to be many more business models from the ground up that spread out what like that middle of the road property manager looks like right now and fully differentiated, and then a top down consolidation of these like national players where there's going to be maybe three relevant ones and everybody else struggles.
No, and I agree. And I think that people need to understand in this industry that 5 years from now, 3 years from now is already going
Mhm.
to be very different, but not only
Yeah.
because of technology, but
Yeah.
also because the people who own properties are younger. And because they're younger, they are just more comfortable with the systems and they're going
Yeah.
to go, it's just going to be part of the ecosystem. You will
Yeah.
still have, so you talk about, I have five doors, I can manage them myself.
I mean, I
I
don't
don't,
want to because it's so hard right now, right?
right. But even if it was easy, I have a lot of clients, there's no way
Yeah.
they're going to manage their own. It's just not what they want to do. They want
Yeah.
to be Thailand. They want to be in,
Yeah.
wherever it is and
Yeah.
get a check on a monthly basis and be done with it. And so, but this allows more of each in a
Yeah.
way that the service can be provided more cheaply.
Yeah.
That's the other
Yeah.
thing. Your costs must come down. They will come
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They're going to come down. Costs are going to come down. I love I talk a lot about context shifts as like these drivers for it, right? Like when there's when a context shifts creates a new
Mhm.
missing, And that new missing because the context shift, because it's either closer to like something or like it shifted and now there's a vacuum over here, that drives the need for an innovation, right? And I love that you identified AI is a giant context shift that we're all going through. I think property management, the great generational wealth transfer is a giant context shift. Like I'm 44, I was born in 80. I'm like, people could say I'm not a millennial. I rather own being the oldest millennial than like try to be a young Gen Xer. But my generation has very different expectations and buying habits and things of the sort. And we are going to ask, isn't there an app for this? Like, right, the moment that we inherit a rental property portfolio, we're going to be like, what, why can't this happen like Uber? Right.
Yeah.
Or if not, why can't I be the person that like Uberifies this thing? Right. Like, I just think it's very real.
Why do I have to call you? What do you mean I have to talk to you?
Yeah.
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 Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Cool.
and also, by the way, people that do property management, if you don't, I tell my staff, like, there are no jobs out there really where you can say, oh, I am a proud non-AI user. Really?
Yeah.
You're not that competitive, right? And so you better get on with
Yeah.
the time. Just understand that this thing is here and it's here.
Yeah.
If you use it well, it's here to help you.
100%.
And yes, it's
100%.
going to take jobs away, but it's going to create a whole lot of other opportunities.
True. New categories create new categories, right? So like
Yeah,
electricity took the jobs of the lamplighters and a whole bunch of stuff, but enabled all these other things, right? So
exactly. Exactly.
this was awesome, Nurith. I like, we talked on a whim as I'm like about to go hike the Grand Canyon. I was like, I know that there's some genius here that I wanted to download, and you have not disappointed. So I'm really, really pumped that you made time for
Yeah,
this, and I can't wait for this episode to come out.
this was great. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for taking the
Cool.
time.
Yeah, for
Okay.
you. Thanks.
Okay.
Cool.